Beyond question, the most important thing that happened on Raw this week, the biggest topic of conversation, discussion, consternation, debate, is the decision by the WWE to have the Seth Rollins character turn heel, leave the Shield, and not only leave the Shield, but align himself with the devil, so to speak, with Triple H and Randy Orton, and replace Dave Bautista apparently in Evolution. Definitely surprising, interesting. Will it be good or will it be bad? Only time will tell. Now, when it comes to Seth Rollins, I do have to confess that when he was in ROH, frankly, I didn't think much of Tyler Black. I thought he was another glorified spot monkey who couldn't talk, who really didn't have much in the way of the personality or charisma department. I thought, frankly, I'll admit it, that he was just another overrated, glorified spot monkey that the internet wrestling community loves to slob the knob of. That's the way I looked at it. And that's what I saw out of him during his time in ROH. Now, when I found out he was signed by the WWE, I was kind of trying to figure out, is he going to be somebody that would end up being like a CM Punk, or would he end up being somebody like an Evan Bourne or a Tyson Kidd or a Dolph Ziggler? Wasn't really sure because I didn't see where he could develop into a big-time player for the WWE based off of what he had exhibited in the independent scene, in particular in ROH. And again, it's not just ring stuff that makes you a big-time star, and I think sometimes there's a big divergence in reality from a lot of fans here on the internet that think that's the only thing that matters, when it clearly isn't, and you should know better. And I would hope you would expect more than just one asset or one facet being really good. Now, what has impressed me about Seth Rollins, Tyler Black, whatever you want to call him, is his growth as a performer. The growth of becoming more than just a glorified spot monkey to me, being somebody that could actually tell a good story in his matches, somebody that has gotten better on the mic, somebody that has learned to better connect with different types of audiences and different types of fans. And perhaps the most important thing to me and the most impressive thing to me, and we see this out of other new performers for the WWE, such as, let's say, a Cesaro. And you could make this argument maybe for all three members of the Shield. But in particular, I think Seth Rollins, perhaps more than Ambrose or Reigns, and that is he has taken the opportunity and maximized on it. He has made the most out of it to the point where he could be even in the thought or discussion of being the individual that could turn heel, that could break up the Shield, and not only that, join with Triple H and Randy Orton and take Batista's spot, whether temporary or long-term, in Evolution. That, if nothing else, speaks to the tremendous growth in Seth Rollins as a performer. You could even see with a lot of the emphasis of Triple H going after a Seth Rollins in some of the recent matches, you could see that maybe Triple H really sees something in this guy and respects it and wants to make sure that it doesn't go to waste. So now here we are. And a lot of the emphasis and focus is on Seth Rollins and what the WWE's done with him and where they go from here. But the ultimate question is, with him turning heel, will this ultimately be a good thing or a bad thing? Well, let's kind of take a look at this really quickly. In terms of some of the pros of why this could be a good thing, you're looking at a surprise twist in an era that is lacking in them. A lot of people know that no good thing is going to last forever and no groups or teams are going to last forever. At some point in time, you're going to break them apart. But a lot of people, I think, would have anticipated that it would have been Ambrose in this spot. And they were sure not thinking that this was going to happen maybe until at least after SummerSlam, if not more down the road. So we got caught off guard and surprised by the timing of it, and we got surprised by the way it was done, and surprised by the individual that actually did it. And in today's era of internet wrestling, that is a very, very tough and difficult thing to do. It truly is. It also begins the necessary breakup of the Shield. Look, at some point in time, you were going to have to break the guys up anyways. So why not do it when they're still hot? Why not do it when it still has some legs? Don't run it into the damn ground and then wait too long to do it. It was going to happen at some point. You were going to have to do it some way. So this begins that process that was necessary anyways. It gives a young talent a great new spotlight. A guy like a Seth Rollins has been a part of this group that has gotten a lot of main event and big spotlight focus for the past year and a half plus in this company. Now you're ensuring that he continues that spotlight, but gets a new type of spotlight presented in a different way as a different type of character. Now you're associating him with two greats of this era, two members of the Breakfast Club in Triple H and Randy Orton. That's a big deal. That is something that could potentially be a very good thing for Seth Rollins as a performer. It creates a heel really with a reason to be hated. It's not just a dumb dick heel turn just to turn somebody heel for the dumb dick all of it. It really isn't. You've got somebody that you have actually turned heel. You have given the crowd a reason to hate him because they like the Shield so much and they like Seth Rollins so much. Why would you do this? And of all things, why would you join these fucks? Why would you join Triple H? Why would you join Randy Orton? An actual heel with a reason to be hated. Again, something that is rare to find in today's WWE. It adds life and fresh dimensions and new interest to Evolution. Now, if Batista going away for a little period of time, what happens if you bring him back? Could you align him with Ambrose and Reigns? Could you have him feud with Seth Rollins? You could do all types of different things. But it really gives the possibility of life and new dimensions and new possibilities for this Evolution storyline. Something that could be very good on the surface that has kind of been so-so. You're primarily judging it, frankly, off of 1.5 feuds. Some of the feud involving Daniel Bryan and then mostly primarily focused between the Evolution and Shield factions. This also sets up potentially at SummerSlam two big kind of featured singles matches between Roman Reigns and Triple H, and then maybe Seth Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. I mean, those are two big-time featured type of SummerSlam, main type matches, if you will, that have storyline and have purpose and have reason for them occurring. You get the Reigns Triple H kind of monster match, and you get a Rollins and Ambrose match that a lot of the internet would like to beat off to. But more importantly, that you've got a reason and a purpose for two matches that could really be, key components of the WWE delivering a good SummerSlam event. It also sets the table potentially for an Ambrose and Reigns feud down the road, which is something you're going to want to do at some point, I think. If you're going to keep Ambrose and Reigns together for the time being, at some point in time, one or the other is going to have to split off for their own reasons. Then at that point in time, you could get more mileage out of that Shield storyline by having these two guys feud. A lot of good things that could potentially come out of this. It's also, frankly, a new reason to stay tuned into the WWE product, at least in the short term. They've given you something you really couldn't see coming. You couldn't really see how it was coming. And now you've got something that you actually want to see how it plays out heading into the summer. That's a good thing. Again, giving a new reason to stay tuned into the product. So a lot of good things that could potentially come out of this. But you know me, I could always look at the negative side of things. But frankly, there are some bad things that could come out of this too. Some really big cons. First and foremost, just because it's a surprise doesn't make it a good surprise. I could whip out my cock on camera. That doesn't make it a good surprise, except for the ladies. I could sit there and go in the middle of a ring and drop trowel and take a huge hulk of crap. But that doesn't make it a good surprise. You might be surprised by it, surprised that I did it, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good surprise. And just because this was a surprise, again, that doesn't mean that it was a good surprise because, frankly, when you look at it too, it also seems to be kind of a random, almost reflex decision. A few months ago on the road to WrestleMania, they were really teasing tension with the Shield and they were going to split them up, and then they brought them back together, maybe stronger than ever. And then all of a sudden now, after they just beat Evolution for the second straight pay-per-view or special event, whatever you want to call it, now all of a sudden Seth Rollins wants to turn on the Shield. He's tired of him. He's tired of being the glue piece, the mastermind of the Shield. Now he wants to go to Evolution. It seems to be very random and out of left field. If you're going to do this, then why not do it at the pay-per-view? Why not tease us at least a little bit in the build-up to it, where maybe you're teasing that Ambrose is going to do it and Reigns is going to do it, and then Seth Rollins is the one to do it either at the pay-per-view or here on Raw. I would have preferred this actually happen at the pay-per-view, giving you something of real consequence that came out of the main event. I'm just saying. Maybe also, Ambrose was better suited for this heel role. When you talk about his ring style, you talk about his presentation, you talk about his mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he acts. It would seem like a Dean Ambrose is much better suited for a heel role. Now, is he still an example of a square peg in a round hole with Evolution and Triple H and Orton? Perhaps, but you could argue the same thing with a Seth Rollins, too. You would think, if anything, that a Roman Reigns would be the most logical guy from a presentation standpoint to replace Batista alongside Orton and Triple H. But again, I do think Ambrose might be better suited for the heel type of role because I look at Seth Rollins' style and I see a style, a moveset, a way of conducting and carrying himself that frankly is better suited for a babyface role. He does a lot of babyface shit. A lot of stuff that's going to generate a babyface pop. You've got a guy that the crowd really likes and really wants to cheer by and large, even with what just recently happened. Are you going against the grain for the fuck all of it just for the sake of it because you can? And trying to force and go against things and force people to boo somebody that they want to cheer when a lot of the things that he does are going to generate a babyface reaction. That's a concern for me. I mean, and I also don't understand why Seth Rollins would want to align himself with Evolution. Why would he want to do that? You're a part of a group in the Shield that just beat him at Extreme Rules and then came back and beat him again at Payback, was pretty much dominant 95% of the way. Why would Seth Rollins go from the winning side to the losing side? You might say, well, Triple H always wins and da-da-da. Well, not at the fucking pay-per-views. He lost at WrestleMania 30 to Daniel Bryan. He was part of a losing team at Extreme Rules. He was a part of a losing team again at Payback. Why would Seth Rollins want to be associated with this? That doesn't seem to make much sense. And furthermore, why would he want to associate himself with two guys that, in theory, you would think would be more about themselves than helping this guy out? Triple H is going to be about Triple H, and Randy Orton's going to be about Randy Orton. Where are they going to be about Seth Rollins? It actually, I think, in a way, makes the Seth Rollins character look stupid. Some people think that is overrated. A lot of people think that, like me, that sometimes is underrated. You got to believe in these characters. You got to be able to relate to these characters. You got to understand these characters and where they're coming from. And frankly, with this, I have no clue why a Seth Rollins would want to fucking leave the winning side and join the losing side. For what? For what? And I'm also concerned, too, that this is more about Triple H than it is Seth Rollins. Now, some of the people that have creatively sat there and tried to set a new narrative over the past couple of months of, oh, Triple H buries people. Well, look what he's done here and here and here. Well, yes, the recent history is very good. He's also gravitated away from a full-time role of being a full-time in-ring performer as a wrestler. He is more of a part-time or semi-full-time. He has more front office and management and executive responsibilities that open his eyes and change his perspective a little bit. That does not negate the history of Paul Levesque over the years. Do not sit there and try to spin it. If you want a more recent example of what it's like to work with a Triple H, ask CM Punk how that worked out for him in 2011. Just less than 3 years ago. Let's not get too fucking carried away here. Ask Sheamus what it's like to work with the Triple H. Ask him how it went. I mean, I'm being serious here. Don't try to change the narrative just because of recent events. Recent events over a period of a few set months does not change the whole body of work just like that over many years. The reason that he earned that reputation is because he earned that reputation, and people need to stop fucking spinning it that way. You know, people like Hogan and Austin and Brett and Shawn have earned that reputation of being egomaniacs. Cena as well, even though some people for some reason seem to deny it. If you're a top guy in the WWE, you are full of yourself, and you do have ego. And you've earned that right to have that ego, but you do have it. And Triple H has it, and I just get that concern that this could be about Triple H setting him up against Reigns, maybe to a lesser degree Ambrose, maybe at some point in time Rollins. Maybe Triple H is looking at this as a Triple H play of what's best for Triple H and not best for Seth Rollins. And don't tell me that's not a possibility, because you know better than that based off of history. Also, instead of doing it this way, maybe the split amongst themselves would have been the better way to go. It would have felt better. It would have felt a little more organic, a little more natural, and would have just felt more right. Maybe, like I said, talking about teasing Ambrose leaving the group or even Reigns leaving the group to have Rollins be the one to leave the group or cause some type of animus between the three of them. Maybe because there is only three of them, it's kind of hard to do a full-on split amongst themselves, perhaps, but maybe still it would have worked better. Again, I talked about it a little bit earlier. You're forcing the crowd to boo a guy that by and large they want to cheer. And was this one thing, this one action, breaking up the Shield, leaving and going to Evolution's side, is this really enough to get the crowd to want to consistently boo Seth Rollins and make him get the type of heel heat that the WWE needs him to get as a heel? I don't know. And, it's one of those things, again, I'm like, the Shield probably had more life to it. Now, you might sit there and say a good booker, good creative decision is to kill off something before the crowd kills it for you. But there's also something to be said about killing off something too soon and rushing too soon to get to a certain point. And maybe this was a thing of the WWE not really planning it out, not really mapping it out. The way it came across, the way it was presented makes me clearly think that the indication is there that that's exactly the case, that this was something that was thrown together, that this was something that was kind of hot-shotted. something that really doesn't have a long-term vision or plan or purpose or reason or circumstance or consequence for it occurring, for it happening, for it continuing. The Shield probably had another 6 months to a year as a group in their current configuration. And maybe, if anything, you would have gotten to the point where maybe the crowd was starting to not, I wouldn't say fully turn on the group, but maybe just lose a little bit of interest, or maybe start to turn on one of the three members ever so slightly. And maybe then you would have had the opportunity, there you would have had the avenue to be able to do the split, and maybe it would have worked even more, because just before it really started to lose momentum or steam, you would have really reinvigorated it. How much more steam are you really getting out of this when there was still more life to the Shield? I don't know. At the end of the day, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? I could see where people are going to think this is a good, great, tremendous thing. I'm going to go, as I usually do, with the devil's advocate kind of negative perspective of this and think that ultimately it will be a bad thing. I think it was something that was rushed, something that was forced, a bit of a reflex. And we've seen some reflex heel turns in recent times, such as Ryback and CM Punk, that I don't think have worked out all that particularly well. I'm concerned about whether Rollins will actually really work as a heel, or is he still going to get babyface pops? As a result, you're creating more of the same type of guys. Is he going to get lost in the schmaz of being associated with Triple H and Randy Orton? Is this really going to elevate him all that much? Is the focus going to be on making Seth Rollins a star? Or is this about Triple H? Is this about Roman Reigns? I have some concerns that ultimately Seth Rollins, short term, it looks like he's the big deal, but long term, he maybe gets lost in the shuffle a little bit. And at the end of the day, you're also talking about the WWE here too, for God's sakes. Let's not get it twisted, and let's not get too carried away with ourselves. By and large, the WWE absolutely completely fails to go all the way with creating new top stars. Even their recent history indicates that they still can't help themselves in this way. Now, a Tyler Black is somebody somewhat similar to a CM Punk or a Daniel Bryan that comes in with his own certain loyal type of following that helps him out from the very beginning. But after being burned by CM Punk and seeing a Daniel Bryan become a top guy, but now with the neck injuries, how concerned are they about the viability of Seth Rollins long term and how much they can really put behind him? I just think at the end of the day that this could be a good thing. There are just too many things that point to me saying this will be a bad thing, that we look back in 6 months or a year and say, man, I wish they wouldn't have done that. It wasn't the right time, and they did it in a typically stupid WWE way. It's my opinion. Let me know your opinion down below in the comments. Thank you.